All right, so today we are really diving deep into this company, Quintaum. They're doing so, well, let's just say they're trying to change how we think about what makes a company tick, how healthy it is. Like, we've all seen those employee satisfaction surveys, right?
Right.
But Quintaum says that's just scratching the surface. They're calling their approach the blood test for your organization.
Yeah, it's an interesting comparison, isn't it? Like with a blood test, you get that full picture of your health, or at least,
Yeah.
a good snapshot of what's going on in there. And that's what Quintum is aiming for, but for your company. They want to get a read on the company culture, the leadership, even down to how the teams are working together day to day.
It's like, how sometimes you don't realize you have a health problem until it becomes a big issue? I feel like it's the same with companies. Like, there are all these hidden issues that we don't even see until it's almost too late.
Absolutely.
Quintaum's trying to change that.
Exactly. And it's not just about, oh, are our employees happy? Which is, important, don't get me wrong. But they're trying to dig deeper into what actually drives engagement and performance, even innovation. And the big thing is, how can organizations see these potential problems before they explode?
Okay, so walk me through this. How is Quintaum different from just another employee survey?
Well, imagine ditching all those never-ending questionnaires everyone dreads in their inbox. Quintam has managed to condense what they say used to be something like 23 different surveys into one streamlined assessment.
So less paperwork, more actually getting things done. I can get behind that. But how can they get such a complete picture from just one survey?
Well, this is where it gets interesting. They've identified over 350 critical signals. Think of them as like data points. And these signals, when they're all analyzed together, can paint a really detailed picture of how healthy the organization is.
Hold on, 350 signals. That's a lot. What kind of things are we even talking about here?
We're talking about everything from employee well-being to how well people feel the company is sticking to its own mission, all the way to burnout risk. They even look at things like how well information is shared between teams, that kind of thing.
So it's not just about the individual employees, but how everyone works together, the whole shebang.
Precisely. And here's the really interesting part. Quintum doesn't just tell you what's going on right now. It uses all that data to actually predict future challenges. It's predictive analytics.
So you're saying they can tell if my team's about to burn out before it even happens? I mean, that sounds amazing, but how? Do they have a magic 8-ball over there or something?
Not quite a magic 8-ball. But it is impressive. They've created this really sophisticated algorithm that takes all that data and combines it with all the latest research on how organizations behave. It's like they've created this map of patterns that can predict things like burnout or when a team's performance is about to take a nosedive.
So they're spotting problems before they even show up in the quarterly reports. That sounds almost too good to be true.
I know, it's kind of mind-blowing, right? But it's not magic. It's just about knowing what to look for, seeing those early warning signs that we often miss in the day-to-day. A little dip in communication here, a drop in project satisfaction there. Quintum's algorithm can pick up on these subtle shifts and flag them so you can address them before they become major issues.
Okay, I think I'm starting to understand how this all works. But let's talk about the practical side of things. Data is great, but how does it actually help leaders make changes?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And this is where Quintum really shines. They don't just dump a mountain of data on you and say good luck with that. They provide these custom reports that break down all those complex findings into clear, actionable steps.
Okay, so give me an example. Let's say I'm managing a team, and Quintum's analysis says we're at risk for burnout. What kind of information would I be looking at?
So imagine this. You get a report, right? And that report highlights the specific things that are contributing to burnout within your team. Maybe it's a lack of clarity about roles, or maybe there's a problem with how the workload is distributed. You might even find out that your team isn't taking advantage of resources that could make their lives easier.
So instead of just guessing at what the problem is, I can see exactly where the issues are and focus on fixing those.
Exactly. And it's not just about fixing problems either. Quintum also highlights the areas where your team is excelling.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right. This way you can understand what's working well and replicate those successes in other parts of the organization.
So it's like a roadmap for building a stronger, healthier company, not just diagnosing the problems.
Exactly. And remember, it's not just leadership that gets access to these insights. Quintam also generates personalized reports for individual employees.
Oh, that's right. You mentioned that earlier. I was curious about that. How do individual employees benefit from all this?
Imagine getting a report that pinpoints your strengths, areas you could improve on, and even suggest potential career paths within your company based on your unique skills.
So it's like having a personalized career coach in your pocket.
That's a great way to put it. It's all about empowering people to take charge of their own development, which benefits everyone in the long run.
Okay, I'm liking what I'm hearing. But does this actually translate into real-world results? Can you give me a real success story?
Absolutely. There's this one case study, a global tech company that was struggling with, you guessed it, really high burnout rates, and their productivity was plummeting. But after they started using Quintam, and this is key, actually acted on the insights they got, things changed drastically. Their burnout rates dropped by 25%, and productivity actually went up by 15%.
Wow, those are impressive numbers. Burnout is such a huge problem, especially in the tech industry. It's like Quintam gave them the tools to not just survive, but to thrive.
Exactly. And the most interesting part is how they did it. Quintam didn't just say, hey, you have a burnout problem. They helped identify the root causes, the bottlenecks, and inefficiencies that were driving people to burnout in the first place.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense. It's one thing to say, we need to fix this, but it's another thing entirely to understand exactly what needs fixing.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of this data-driven approach. It takes out the guesswork and allows you to make smart, informed decisions based on real insights, not just gut feelings.
I'm convinced about the data and the results, but I do have one question. With all this information being collected about employees, how does Quintam handle privacy concerns?
That's a really important question, and I can tell you, Quintum takes data security and employee privacy extremely seriously. All the data collected is completely anonymized and aggregated. That means individual responses are never linked back to specific employees.
So even though leaders are getting all this detailed information, it's all presented in a way that protects everyone's privacy.
Precisely. It's about providing valuable insights without compromising individual privacy. And it's important to remember that Quintum's whole goal is to create a more trusting and transparent work environment. They want employees to feel comfortable sharing their honest feedback, knowing that it will be used constructively to make positive changes.
That makes sense. It's about creating a culture of open feedback where everyone feels heard.
Exactly.
So it's not just about collecting data, it's about using that data to build a better workplace for everyone.
Absolutely. And, this actually ties into a larger point about how Quintum's insights can actually contribute to a company's ESG and sustainability reporting.
Oh, how so?
Well, specifically the S part, the social pillar.
Right.
Investors and customers are paying more and more attention to how companies are treating their employees. And Quintum's data can provide that concrete evidence of a company's commitment to creating a healthy and supportive work environment. It's not just lip service. They have the data to back it up.
It's like that saying, show, don't tell.
Exactly.
Quintum provides the showing part, like it. So if you had to sum it all up, what's the one big takeaway you want listeners to remember about Quintum?
For me, it's that Quintum isn't just another piece of HR software. It's really more of a philosophy, a commitment to putting people at the heart of what makes a company successful.
And that's something I think a lot of companies are missing these days.
I agree. And I think it really resonates with this growing movement towards more purpose-driven businesses. It's not just about profits anymore. It's about creating organizations where people feel valued and engaged and empowered to do their best work.
And that's not just good for employees, it's good for the bottom line, too.
Exactly. Happier, healthier employees are more productive, more creative, more likely to stick around. It's a win-win situation for everyone involved.
We were talking about Quintam's model for organizational health being kind of like a tree. And I'm curious, how does that metaphor play into this idea of sustainable success?
Oh, that's a great question. So think about it like this. A tree needs strong, healthy roots to weather storms and bear fruit, right?
Right.
Well, it's the same with companies. They need a strong foundation of people and culture to weather the inevitable challenges and achieve long-term sustainable growth.
So Quintum is the gardener helping companies grow those strong roots.
Exactly. They give you the tools and the knowledge you need to cultivate a thriving and resilient organization.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
It really drives home the point that investing in your people isn't just the right thing to do. It's also the smart thing to do from a business perspective.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive into the world of organizational health and Quintum's approach. I think they're really onto something special here.
I couldn't agree more.
For our listeners who are ready to take their organization's health to the next level, you can find a link to Quintum's website in the show notes. And remember, just like a tree needs constant care and attention to thrive, so does a healthy organization. Until next time, keep those roots strong.